Hi, thank you for being with us today. I'm Janet Cassidy on Rivers of Living Water, and my guest today is Father Bill Lugger, who is a Catholic priest in the Diocese of Lansing, and I'm so excited to talk to you, Father Bill. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Janet. It's good to talk to you too. We've been friends for a long time.
A long time, a long time. Well, I know a lot of people know you around the diocese, but I would like to let some of our audience who may not know you learn a little bit more about you. So
Okay.
if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a priest and kind of all of that, that's a good
Sure.
place to start.
Sure. Well, I'm on my 35th year of priesthood. I was ordained a priest in 1989 by Bishop Pavish, ordained a deacon the previous year, 1988, by Cardinal Shaka. I'm what they call a late vocation because I didn't really think about seminary until I probably was close to 30, 31 years old. I grew up in Flint. Flint's my hometown. Went to all public schools, never went to Catholic school. I owned my own business for a little while. I had a clothing store that predominantly sold wedding gowns and prom dresses and those kinds of things because I had worked for them from the time I was 14. In Flint, it was called Ferris Brothers. So I had that. And then I bought the business in 1972 after I flunked out of college twice. So
No.
I'm still here for that. Yes, lots of stories to tell about that. And then GM pulled out of Flint and I lost the business with my partner. So then I decided that pay bills off. I started selling shoes for some family friends. And my mom had gotten remarried and we'd moved to Flushing, St. Robert Parish. And I became really good friends with two priests, Father Joe Martinez and Father John Klein. I also joined the choir. And I was helping out in the parish. I was helping the youth minister. I was teaching CCD. I was working in the office. I was a lector and all of those things except presiding at Mass. So one day when I was teaching 7th grade CCD classes, this young lady came up to me and she said, "Mr. Lugger, I think you should be a priest." Well, that just about stunned me, knocked me right on the floor just about. So I just kind of nodded to her and I said, "Okay, let me think about it." Well, over the next, few weeks or whatever, I kept praying over it and praying over it and praying over it. And I wasn't sure even what that involved. I mean, I just didn't know. I knew there was seminary and all of those kinds of things. So I had to go to the bishop for an interview, Bishop Pavish then. Wonderful man. I love him dearly. I miss him every day. He was very kind. And he said to me, "Well, I think we probably would accept you into the program, but we'd like you to live at the Formation House in Lansing." It was called Oak Street. And at Oak Street, there was 6 guys that we all lived together with the vocation director. I went back to school at Michigan State, and they kind of just feel us out and see what we're like and temperaments and all of those kinds of things. And we got to know people in the diocese very well. So I had to finish college. So I went out to St. Thomas University in Minnesota, got my degree in education, taught 5th grade, was very happy in that role, and then came back to do graduate school at St. John's Plymouth Seminary. It's about the same thing, really.
Where is that?
It's in Plymouth, right off 275.
Okay.
So they closed it my last year there, and we moved to Sacred Heart in Detroit. So I finished my last 6 months right there, and then we were sent back to our home parishes. I was a deacon there for just about 6 months before I was ordained a priest.
Now, you said you flunked out of college twice, but you obviously had to go through seminary as well, and that's college, right?
Yes, right. Yeah. But by the time I went back, I was ready to go to college. I wasn't, what words do I want? I wasn't scared or anything like that. I knew I was ready for college. And the first time I went, I just was not ready to go to college. I should have probably gone to maybe a community college or something like that, but I was just unprepared for all of that. So but I was go ahead.
I'm sorry to mean to interrupt you. This lady that said, "Mr. Lugger, I think you should."
This was a 7th grade girl.
Oh, it was a 7th grade girl.
Yeah, it was one of my students.
Had you thought about the priesthood at all before that young girl
Maybe
just mentioned it?
a fleeting moment, but I just thought, there's no way they're going to let me do that given my life. Yeah. So I just put it right out of my head. And when she asked me that question, Father Joe Martinez was close by, And he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he said, yeah, listen to what she's saying. That's God speaking to you.
Wow.
So that really was kind of one of the major turning points. I never said anything to my family. I contacted the bishop's office, and one afternoon, the bishop's office called my house, and my mom answered the phone. And they said, this was the vocation office. We'd like to set up a meeting with Bill Lugger, find out about priesthood. Well, I had never said anything to her at all. So I got home from work and she said, we got this phone call today. And, by the time she kind of ruminated over that in her mind, I was already ordained in a bishop by that time. So, but
Yeah.
then when I went in and
Dumped it.
yeah, right. She had me all done. By the time I went in and they told me it was 9 more years of school, I just can't imagine I'll ever survive 9 more years of school. But
Right.
it went so quickly and I got great grades. I got pretty much 4.0 in all my classes. By the time I went back to college, I did grad school. My college prepared me very well for grad school. So I didn't have any problems at grad level at all. Yeah. I love the
So
scriptures. I had great teachers. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to be careful in asking this question, but I was wondering the difference between seminary life and the real life of ministry for
Yes.
35 plus years. Big
Yeah.
difference?
Oh, very much so. Because, in the seminary, we had hours that we couldn't go out. We had limitations on what we could and couldn't do. It was very, I don't want to say rigorous, but it was like basic training for the Army or the
Oh,
Navy, a basic training in seminary. I mean, they taught you when to pray and how to pray and those kinds of things. And my study habits got better. My reading habits really improved over that. So by the time that I was ordained, I didn't hesitate to, look up something for a homily or prepare a talk to a group of people or anything like that. I was very comfortable in speaking before people, as well as singing before people. I sang a lot before people. Yes. Yeah.
well, and that's something I want to get into in a few minutes. I want to talk
Right.
about your singing. But first, I have to mention something that I think is just incredible that you did that I can't imagine ever doing, which is that El Camino,
Oh,
walking the El Camino Trail.
yes.
I read that you hiked for 12 to 15 miles a day
Correct. Yeah,
and
it was
for like what, 31
30
days?
days, 31 days, I think it took me. Yes. So I started in Bilbao, Spain, which is the northeastern corner of Spain. I started to go there because they had a brand new Guggenheim Museum there. And if you've not seen the pictures of the outside, it's a very beautiful, unusual building looking at. I wanted to see that. And so I went there for just a couple of days. I don't speak Spanish much at all. I have my little translator on my computer. And the year before I was going to do it, but I got cancer of the esophagus. So I had to have my esophagus removed. And during that prep time, I just prayed and said to both St. James and God, if you get me through this, I'll do the walk. So I started on Labor Day weekend of 2013 and finished it just about October the 2nd of 2013. About 32 days, 400 miles. Yeah, averaged about 10, 13 miles a day between the villages.
Was it lonely?
First couple of weeks it was because I started after school. So there was no pilgrims that I find when I was on my first part of the trip. I walked by myself for, probably at least 10 days. And so I sang every song I could ever sing. I sang, I had a missalette with me so I could sing hymns and those kinds of things. And I prayed the rosary. I read scripture just to kind of get me through some of those days. And sometimes I would just walk by myself and think, have a conversation with God. It was a very emotional time. Yeah, exactly. It was. Yep. And
I
so
think
by the
I
time
would I think I would have been spending my time going, my feet hurt. I'm hungry. My legs are tired. So can God get through that?
oh yeah, I did. I didn't have any problem with my feet at all. My concern was my hips because I walked on so much cement. Like you would
Yes.
be walking down I-75 with cars zooming by you for 70 miles an hour, and you just have the road and the side to walk with. So sometimes it was a little scary to walk that way. Sometimes it was beautiful farmlands and some exquisite, beautiful country estates in northern Spain there. And it just was, there were some days it was just beautiful. Some days I was wondering, why did I really think I could do this? Yes.
Because I was thinking, you mentioned your esophagus surgery. I was thinking that you did this a relatively short time after a major surgery,
Right.
which
Yeah.
seems like it
Well,
would have been
just
kind of
about a
scary.
little less than a year. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
incredible. Um,
yep.
the other thing I want to talk about is your music.
hmm
Because those of us that know you have a beautiful voice, but I've never heard whether or not you studied music or you just came by it naturally. I mean, weren't you in some liturgical commission with the diocese related to music? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So by the time I got to be in fourth grade in the Flint public schools, you had a music program. We had music almost every day in school there. And so as I remember, I was about, oh, yeah, fourth grade, which would mean maybe 9 or 10 years old. And they did this great big music test for almost all the city of Flint. And my music teacher came to me and said, "You were the only one that got a perfect score out of all of these 500 or 600 kids that got a perfect score." So he said, "There must be something within you." My mom was a singer, my grandpa was a singer.
Oh,
So I started to play the trumpet, and I wasn't good enough that I wanted to play it. So he switched me over to sousaphone, and I played in marching band and orchestra. I was in state competitions. I got a scholarship to Interlochen, those kinds of things. And so music was really helping me to get through junior high school and high school. It's interesting that when I was in about fifth grade, I sang in a talent show um, at school in front of the whole school, and God decided to change my voice in the middle of the song. And I couldn't reach the high notes, and I just ran off the stage. I was totally embarrassed. I can remember it like it's yesterday, and I swore I would never sing again. And I really didn't sing publicly again until I joined my choir at St. Robert's back in 1978, I think it was. Yeah.
oh my
So,
gosh.
yes.
That must have
Then
been
I started singing the
devastating.
choir, right? And when I went out to college seminary, I was a cantor out there. And then when I came back and was in grad school, I was on the Diocese of Liturgical Commission. I was the chairperson for about 12 years, I think it was 11, 12 years, under some really wonderful ladies, Sister Marilyn Barnett and Mrs. Rita Thyron. They were just wonderful people to work with and everything like that. So,
What did you
um,
do in that position? Were you in charge of the music for liturgies?
no, we were just kind of an advisory. We had um, I guess with small conventions each year that I would be a part of the plan.
Oh, okay.
Um, we did
Okay.
some advisory things to the bishop. People would send questions in about, my priest does this. Is that okay? My priest does this. Can we do this? So it
Oh,
was really
okay.
nice round table of, there was a couple organists there, a couple musicians, a couple of lay people. I was the only priest on it for a while, but we just had a nice 2 hour meeting, usually once a month, and decided, this needs to be talked about, or if the new missal came out when I was on the board, how we're going to present that. We did workshops on the weddings and on funerals and those kinds of things. So it was
Oh,
really a wonderful way to experience what I had learned in seminary as well as what I was using as a priest. Yes.
well, as we sort of lead into our topic today about this major life decision that you've made, I want to preface it with your singing "God Bless America" at
Oh,
the Lansing Lugnuts game. How did you get involved in that?
I think if I remember correctly, one of the knights from my parish, St. Casimir Parish in Lansing, had just asked me if I would want to do that. Um, they start, I think the Lugnuts is about 22 years old, 23 years old, maybe. And so from the first year, every year they have a diocesan event where the Knights of Columbus come and they present the colors, and there's people from all the parishes there. They raise money for seminarians. And so they asked me. So I've done that probably about 22, 23 years in a row. Sometimes I sing God Bless America. I have done the national anthem a couple times. I've done the national anthem in the governor's quarters at the state capitol a couple times. I did it for the Michigan Democratic Convention down in Detroit once. That was a great honor at Cobo Hall. So I guess they kept asking me to do it, and as long as I remembered the words, I was happy to do it.
That's what I would be afraid of, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Usually at the
remembering.
ballparks, they put them up on the scoreboard type thing, so
Oh,
you can
right.
kind of watch what you're saying. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
so this for people that follow you and know you, what was different this year when you posted your performance, I know it's not a performance, but your
Yeah.
performance, you posted on there that this was your final tour.
Right. Yeah.
And several of us probably know what you were referring to, but that's what I want to get into today.
Okay. Sure.
You called it your final tour. You were diagnosed with Good Pasture Disease or syndrome. I'm not even
Right.
sure
Oh,
what
yeah,
they
they're
call
both.
it.
Yeah, they call it either one. Sure.
And so tell us when that happened, and tell us about the disease itself and what you've
Okay.
been dealing with.
Sure. So back in 2020, in December, I'd had a physical, and within about 2 days, my doctor called me and said, "Get to the emergency room immediately." I mean, he really stressed that I get there. I was feeling okay. I'd gone into the doctor, but because I had some real lethargy, I just didn't have the energy that I had anymore. And maybe I would do mass in the morning, I would come home and I would sleep all afternoon. So I was wondering about that. Maybe it was low iron or something like that. So by the time I got to the emergency room, they put me in a room, asked me some questions, and took the usual stuff. About 2 hours after that, I started coughing up blood. And then I coded twice, I guess. I don't remember. I can remember the first time that I did because I could feel myself going. And I woke up probably 4 or 5 days later, attached to a dialysis machine. Good Pasture Disease, and it's Dr. Good Pasture from Minnesota who recognized this disease, is only diagnosed about 1 in every million people. And so what the disease entails is an autoimmune disease. I can't give it to anybody, nor did I contract it from anybody. It's where the cells in the body attack each other. In most cases, like mine, my lung cells attacked my kidney cells, and my kidney cells attacked my lung cells, thinking they were bad, just like you would take an antibiotic type thing. And there still isn't much known about it. When you go to the Mayo Clinic website, it just gives vague stuff. They're still trying to figure out what it comes from. Originally, they thought maybe it was people who worked with floor scrubbers and real high energy or high detergents and those kinds of things, that maybe was causing it. And they ruled that out. Then they said, well, maybe it was smokers. And for the longest time, only men got it. Now I'm reading on Facebook, there's a Facebook page for Good Pasture Disease, that women and even young children are getting it. But they still don't know really how it comes about. Yeah, so it was one of those very unusual things. So I was in the hospital just about a month in December, of course, right at the middle of COVID. Everybody was, suffering from that, and they gave me a couple COVID tests, and they lost most of the results. I don't know whether that was divine providence or whatever, but yeah. So I couldn't take care of myself when I got out of the hospital. I was so weak, and I was living by myself with my dog. And so Father Carl Pong at the cathedral in St. Mary's in Lansing said I could come down there. There was a 1-bedroom with a bath right on the first floor. He said I'd be welcome to come and recover with, and I've been here now almost 3 years. So it was the first year was a long year. I really didn't have much energy. I really didn't preside at Mass, I don't think, until maybe sometime in June or July to get the energy to even just stand and celebrate with another priest. The energy was just not there. I was on dialysis for about 8 months and many medications. I was on infusions, transfusions. I'm presently kind of taking about 26, 27 pills a day to keep my things up. And so I keep checking it, and my kidneys now are at a function about 18%, and they just keep dropping every time I do that.
Oh,
so
okay.
My doctor gave me, some suggestions. One was a transplant. And I just felt that I had so many surgeries and been in the hospital so many times. I just didn't want to go through that again. My body and my mindset couldn't handle that again. So back in about the middle of May, I talked with the doctor, and I talked with Bishop Boyer, and I talked with the spiritual director, and I just decided that come September, which is coming up in a couple of days, I can't believe it's going to be September already, I would end everything. No pills, no medications, no tests, nothing like that whatsoever. And my nephrologist said, well, once you do that, I probably would give you maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks to live after that. Wow. So it was a conscious decision. To say it was easy, no, I can't say it was easy, but I'm very comfortable with that outcome. I've been praying over it. I've been talking to friends. And so I kind of jokingly said that performance at the ball game was my kind of my swan song and my, last tour, I guess you would say. Yeah. But I'm still right now able to do 3 or 4 masses a week at the cathedral, and I help out at a parish down in Jackson. I visit hospice on Wednesdays and do hospital calls when I'm needed. I've done probably a couple funerals since I've in the last couple of weeks. So I'm doing funerals from former parishioners, burying people. And I'm kind of on a rent-a-priest for some of the funeral homes that people don't have a connection with the church and want a priest to preside. I've done that too. So I'm keeping fairly busy in my life right now.
Have you already discontinued all of your treatment and pills?
No, I haven't continued them all. What I'm doing is as my prescriptions run out, I just don't get them refilled.
Okay.
So I will see my nephrologist later this afternoon and ask him about some of those medications, because there's some that probably I might even keep in my regular doctor, like for anxiety.
Yes.
I could still keep that, or panic attacks that I will hopefully help me in that situation, because the nephrologist said to me, what would happen is once you discontinue all of those medications, your body would slowly build up toxins, and basically you would just go to bed, get very, very sleepy, and then some night fall asleep and not wake up.
Okay. So are you still on dialysis for the month?
No, I'm not. I've been in dialysis for almost 1.5 years. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, maybe the good Lord will just keep you moving right along, right?
Well, and I've said that to people. I said, if I end everything and he wants me to keep working, I'm very happy in my priesthood. I love being a priest. I love presiding. I love going to the hospitals, as difficult as that can sometimes be. And if he wants me to work, I'd be happy to continue to work. Whatever the Lord wants me, I'm putting my trust in him, as they say. Yes.
Well, it sounds like you've put in a lot of prayer and discernment and discussion before making this decision.
Yes.
Is there any part of you that goes back and forth? Oh, maybe I should just, keep the pills going. I mean, is that a part of the process? Even though you're like, I know I don't want to do it, but
right. Because some people have called me very selfish for doing this. They've said to you, you shouldn't be doing that. If God wants to take you, he'll take you whether you're on medications or not. And you need to continue to do that. They call me very selfish. And I kind of get a little offended by that, because it's a question of my faith life. In my 34 plus years of priesthood, I probably have done close to 1,600 funerals. So I preached about death and resurrection now for 34 years. And so I'm very comfortable in, looking forward, I guess, to whatever God has in mind for me. I'm hoping the kingdom is there. I'm hoping, I've been anointed a few times. I'll go to reconciliation. I've made peace, I think, with most of the people that I've either been angry at or they've angered me over the last 6 or 7 weeks, written them notes and talked to them on the phone. So I think I'm just ready to go face what all of us as Christians are ready to face, as our own death here on earth and new life in the resurrection in heaven. Yep.
And that's a real hopefulness.
It is. Yes.
It's a hopefulness.
Yes.
You've spent your whole life trusting in God and living for this, right?
Right.
No, selfishness is not something that would have ever occurred to me as this being, because and that's something maybe you can talk a little bit about. There's a difference, isn't there, between like euthanasia and what you're doing, and some people might not see that difference. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Euthanasia would be taking something or doing something that would cause you, in the new terminology, to be unalive. That's what they're saying. They don't call it death anymore.
Unalive?
Unalive, yeah. He unalived himself. That's the new terminology. I only heard that a few weeks ago. Yeah. So the church would forbid that. There's some places in the world where you can go into a clinic or whatever, and they put you in this nice room and they give you the medication, and within half hour or so you're dead. The church would not say that's proper way to go. Naturally would be. So by me letting go of all my medications and my procedures, I'm just letting naturally what would happen to my body if I hadn't taken those. So it's not a question of euthanasia. It's a question of how your body naturally dies in this life and resurrects in the next.
In the process really is you still being open to God's timing and you know, what that is. But that, I imagine there's been different stages you've gone through, even though you've spent your entire life trusting in God and all of that, fear must creep into this
Oh, sure it
process.
does. Yep. If I'm on a long drive and I have nothing to think about, then I think about that before I go to bed at night. I mean, the fact that the doctor said to me, you go to bed and go to sleep and never wake up, I'm thinking, is this the night that that's going to happen? So I make my prayers extra, saying, you know, Blessed Mother, pray for me as we end that Hail Mary now and at the hour of our death. I pray for the Lord to make a peaceful death happen. And so usually when I go to bed at night, yeah, I'm concerned that I won't wake up the next morning, but also because every funeral that I've preached, I've always talked about you're going to see your family again in the kingdom of heaven. And that's what I would really hope would happen, that I would see my mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa, who never were around when I was ordained a priest, my grandparents, my mom was, of course, and just people in my life that I have been buried that I was very close to. I want them to be, as I've told everybody, standing at the gates to let me in when I get time to go there. Yes.
What a
So,
beautiful image. What a beautiful image. And it's what our faith teaches. That,
right, exactly. We're on this great ship that's going to heaven. And that's
yeah.
what we, you know, that's what we're here for. That's what we pray on Sundays. That's what we pray on every day, is that this life ends in a time where God is going to take us home and live with him in a place where there's no war, there's no violence, there's no disease, there's no refugees, there's no bombings and shootings, there's no cancer, there's no AIDS, there's no good pasture disease, anything like that whatsoever. Yes. Only the
So,
perfectness of God's love.
Father Bill, what would you say to someone, you know, that may be going through a terminal illness right now? Is is there anything that you have learned through this process that, I don't know, could be comforting to someone else? I mean, I know it's all it's an
Sure.
individual thing.
I would say find someone that you can talk to and like let it all out and say, here's my concerns and here's what it's doing to my body and here's what my life expectations are and here's where I am in terms of my family. Do I have children and how old am I and what's going on? That all has to come into the conversation about, you know, whether I discontinue this or discontinue that. And there are people out there that will help you make those decisions. There are people in palliative care in hospitals that will help you make that decision. There are people at hospice that help you make that decisions. So find somebody who knows what they're doing, knows the experience, and make an appointment and take your family with you, or if you're comfortable, or do it by yourself, so that you're making this decision with everybody on the same page as you are. Yes.
Do you
And
find
pray.
do you find that you have to intentionally drown out those voices that criticize you for this decision? Do
Oh
you
yeah,
have to
sure. Yeah. Or I just pray for them. I mean, you know, one of my sisters asked me if I had seen a psychologist about this. And I said to her, it's not a psychological issue. It's a faith issue. And so my faith says that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is preparing for the coming of God's kingdom.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have to, you know, have a kind of a counter action or a counter message. And I've been doing that now for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, as people find out about it and talk about it and ask me questions that,
Mhm.
and I think people, once they talk to me for a little while, they can say to me, you really sound like you're comfortable with this, or your positive message in this. Yes. So, and right at the moment, I'm fully comfortable what's going to happen over the next month or 6 weeks. It's all up to God.
And
Yes.
my guess is that in kind of an interesting way, you probably find yourself ministering to the people that love you so much and don't want to go through this, don't want to
Sure.
don't want to
Sure.
lose you.
Yeah, sure. Yep, I do. I do that when I talk to people or speak with people. In fact, you know, the way you and I know each other is from a great group called COGA, COGA, Catholic Organization for Group Activities, that we, along with several other people that we are good friends with, founded this kind of young adult organization I think way back in maybe 1978 or 79, maybe.
And they were already established when my
Right.
husband and I met, and we got
Yep.
married. We met in 81 and got married in 82, and
Yeah.
that had already been established.
Right.
before
So
that.
there was about 10 or 15 of us all over the Flint area that we each borrowed $50 from our parish and asked the pastor if we could start this young adult program. And at one time, I think we had close to 250 people on our mailing list.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
some of those people I'm still great friends with. We get together, we have mass together, we do a picnic together. I visit their house, they come and visit me. So part of my vocation has to come from that as well, too. Because
Right.
yeah, lots of marriages out of that, lots of grandchildren out of that now. And so yeah, it's been a really worthwhile endeavor to be a part of that for many years.
And I think I've heard you say over the years that it's been, I don't know, encouraging to know so many people that have been able to stay married and have good, solid,
Right.
faith-filled, joyful marriages.
Marriages, right. With lots of kids and grandkids. It's really
Right.
wonderful experience because,
Right.
you know, a lot of the time I get together with married couples is they're having problems or,
Yes.
you know, they've had a big
Yes.
fight or the kids are doing this or he's doing that or she's not doing this.
Right.
And so it's really wonderful to be around those of you who I have known and loved for now almost over 40 years
Yeah.
to see a quality marriage. You guys go to church, you raise your kids Catholic, and it's just really a wonderful thing for me to see. It's very heartwarming. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's
Yes.
been uplifting for all of us as well.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you feel like God's been preparing you for this process and what's coming.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I look back in my life and I think, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. And it kind of all builds up to this, you know, kind of great crescendo of life, death, and resurrection. So I can look back and see where God has been important to me at this part of my life and this part of my life and this part of my life. And this turned out this way and this turned out this way. And so here I am today in 2023, anticipating whatever's going to happen. Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. I have found just through reflections, I don't know, retreats or reflections over the years, that God's been working in my life before I even realized God was working in my life.
Correct.
So
Yes,
I expect
exactly.
that there's been things that, maybe even just your life of being a priest has helped prepare you for this in
Oh yeah.
ways
Yes.
you wouldn't have ever seen, 30
No,
years ago.
exactly. Yeah. If I'd have gotten this disease, say, even before I even thought about priesthood, I would have been in a total panic.
Right.
I would have been in a total panic. Yep. And, you know, my mom was a nurse. She would have been in a total panic. She's in heaven waiting for me to come, I hope. And so it's one of those things that, yep, I can see where that's happened throughout my life. And especially the last 5 or 6 years, where you look at the indications of good pasture disease. And I didn't have them all at once. I had little bits and pieces of hospitalizations that if a doctor had maybe put them all together, maybe we could see the anticipation of that coming. But it wasn't until I was fully hit by the inclusion at the emergency room that afternoon that they all kind of came together.
Well, that might have been a blessing because you would have had so many more years to just
Well, that's it. And I'm just happy that I was there
wring your
rather than
hands.
driving down the street with people in my car or anything like that, or on the freeway going to visitation or,
Right.
covering a parish or something like that. Any
Right.
number of things could have happened if that had happened in car while I was by myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even living by myself,
Right.
it would have found me on the floor and my dog would have been there with me and that would have been about it. So yes. Yeah.
Well, you answered a question I had, and I had forgotten to ask it, but I wondered if you had this for longer than you knew you did. And it sounds like there were those indications
The
there.
indications, yes.
Yeah.
But since nobody had ever heard of that, I wasn't aware that that even existed. Not till I woke up in the emergency room or in the hospital about 3 or 4 days after that happened. And when the doctor first said to me, good pasture, I thought he meant good pastor, Pastor. And he said, no, good pasture, like cow pasture, that there was this doctor named Good Pasture. And I thought, well, I've been a good pastor for many years.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the
Right.
compliment, but why am I living here in the bed? Yes, exactly.
I just can't imagine going from feeling pretty decent, but a little bit tired to that,
Yes.
like not even overnight, from morning to afternoon.
Yeah, in a couple hours, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
within a couple of
Yeah.
hours. So
Yes.
So I assume you have all your plans in place, and
My funeral's all planned out. I picked out the readings, I picked out the scriptures, I picked out the hymns, my cemetery plot's paid for. I'm meeting with the funeral director later this week to kind of confirm all of those last things. So my funeral will be here at the cathedral.
okay.
Probably a evening prayer on a Sunday afternoon, and then my funeral may be a Monday afternoon. From what we're talking a little bit about that for my brother priest to come
Okay.
and celebrate with me and my family.
And being a music guy, there's a few songs that you've heard a few too many times over the years.
Yes.
They're beloved songs, but they're just
beloved
not
songs, but I just didn't want them at my own funeral. God bless those people who pick them up because
right.
that's what they want. But I didn't want Here I Am, Lord, and I didn't want Be Not Afraid, because I'm not afraid. And I just picked out other hymns that I thought suited me better than that. Mostly resurrection songs. I really wanted My Eye is on the Sparrow, or His Eye is on the Sparrow, but it's a really traditional Black gospel song. And I said the only one I wanted to sing that would be Jennifer Hudson from the TV show. And I haven't been able to get a hold of her yet. So I don't think that's possible. Yes, exactly.
Well, my dear friend, Father Bill Wager, who passed away. I remember that a lot of his preparations, or a lot of, they give that pamphlet out at the funeral. And when I looked over his songs, it was just like you said, they were filled with hopefulness and resurrection. And it was almost like a message to those of us who are sad about this.
So my closing song, I believe I picked out, is Jerusalem, My Destiny. Talks about the new Jerusalem that we're all headed for. So that's, I kind of wanted a victorious song. Just as Jesus had victory over his own death, I hope the good Lord gives me victory over mine as well. Sure. Yep.
Well, I'm among those that are praying for you through this process.
Thank you.
I admit to wishing that God would, keep you with us longer than you are anticipating. But, there's that other side of it that says we totally understand the hopefulness and looking forward to what you have spent your life preaching on and living. So
I hope so. Yeah, that's what I want people to get out of this too, as well as that. Yes.
I just cannot thank you enough for being with me today. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you, and I haven't had a chance in a while to sit down.
Privilege. I have a Facebook page. If anybody wants to ask me questions, you can go right to my Facebook page. I'm not in any other
on the other social media stuff.
Any social media, right? I'm just on Facebook. So people, and I put everything out there that I usually going on. People say sometimes I put a bit too much on there, but I want people to know where I'm at, and I'm happy to answer questions and get back to you or anything like that whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's just Bill Lugger, Lugger. Is that
correct?
Your Facebook? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
And I used to end my bulletin articles with "You pray for me, and I'll pray for you," and so that's what I tell everybody. You pray for me, and I will pray for you.
Very good. Would you give us a blessing?
Sure.
Okay.
God, the Father of mercies, who raised the dead, cured the blind, the sick, and the lame, may keep you all happy, healthy, and holy all the days of your life. And I bless you all in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless.
Thank you so much. And
thanks,
I'll have my contact information up too, and so people can know where to find this interview. And we just pray for you and wish you the best as you go through this process. And I have to say, your joyfulness and in your courage in doing this means a lot to us. I think it's a real way to continue to minister to people who love you so much. So
thanks very much. I appreciate that. Yep. God bless you.
Thank you.